Good morning and welcome to another edition of Our Town here on 94.9 and 99.1 The River. My name is Darren Swinson. Our Town, as always, brought to you by Decorah Bank and Trust. Got a four-guest program on the lineup this morning. A little later on in the program, we'll talk to you both city managers from Decorah and Waukon. Travis Goedken from Decorah, Gary Boden of Waukon. They'll update us on everything going on in those two fine communities. Couple of celebrations coming up this weekend. Of course, it's Hesper-Mabel Steam Engine Days, and all the fun begins tonight. Carl Westby will join us from the Mabel Lions, and he'll tell us all about Hesper-Mabel Steam Engine Days. But first things first, it's Fall Fest on the Northeast Iowa Community College campus tonight, and we'll hear all about Fall Fest. It's with NICC President Dr. Reidel. Herb will be our first guest on the program. This is Our Town. It's brought to you by Decorah Bank and Trust, and you're listening to it on 94.9 and 99.1 The River. One of the fun annual events at Northeast Iowa Community College is NICC's Fall Fest, and here to preview the event, which will come up tonight, is Dr. Herb Reidel. He is the president of Northeast Iowa Community College. First of all, Herb, you've been on the job for a year. What have you enjoyed the most about your first year at NICC?
Well, I would say thank you for asking, Darren. I would say definitely the people, and that is every one of my coworkers as well as our students and our community. But it's been a great experience and lots of good things that have been going on in just a short period of time.
And part of that good things going on is the connection between the NICC campus and the community. And that's kind of what Fall Fest is all about. Is that fair to say?
That is absolutely right. It's always a good day when we get to welcome the public on our campus, and we're glad to do it. It's just wonderful to see everybody come out and bring their kids and their grandkids and just come out and enjoy the good energy that we have.
Tell us about some of the events that will be, tell us about what Fall Fest will all entail, I guess, is the right way to put it.
Right. Well, it's a little bit of something for everything. There'll be some good music. Bo Timmerman will be performing beginning at 5:30 p.m. The event is from 5 to 8 tonight, and there will be inflatables, rides, carnival games for kids of all ages, and I have it on good authority that one of my colleagues is going to bring her baby goats and maybe one or two of her alpacas.
Wow.
They were a big hit last year, and just neat to see those animals up close.
And food involved in the night as well, like with any
Yes.
good celebration?
Yes, there will be pulled pork sandwiches and all beef hot dogs, chips, cookies, root beer, water, and the price is right. The price is a goodwill donation. I should mention, for those who are a little more interested in some activities, we will have the National Guard there, rock climbing wall. So you can try your luck with that. And also, as far as treats, there will be cotton candy and the Moo-mobile. The Moo-mobile. And
also some displays on campus coming up tonight as well.
Yes, there will be some displays and a lot of just interest in what we do, and a lot of good experience. Good experiences. If we're lucky, we'll have some of our tractors out there from the John Deere Tech program. They were there last year, and just a little bit of something for everybody. And I understand that the Gunderson Air Helicopter plans to visit the campus around 5:30 or 6.
And if you're bringing your kids or your grandkids out, ride tickets very cost effective as well.
Yes, the tickets are 25 cents each, and most of the rides are 2 or 3 tickets at the most. So yes.
And if you're coming to campus, where should people park? Where should people enter the campus? What guidance can you provide on that end of things?
Yeah, the parking will be nearby, on campus and nearby. It's right south of Calmer on 150 South, and there will be directional signs pointing you to parking. But we have ample parking, so that will not be a problem.
And as long as we've got you on the show this morning, tell us if you got anything else to pass on about the stuff going on at NICC as you begin another academic year. The floor is yours, Dr. Reidel.
Well, just a couple things. We've had a lot of excitement thanks to our Board of Trustees. They approved our expansion of athletics, so that's going to add a new dimension both in Calmer and Piasta. And we just hired the college's first ever director of athletics, Mr. Richard Spies, who will be joining the college October 16th. And currently we have sports shooting, and we have esports, which is competitive computer gaming. But with our expansion, we'll be adding additional sports on each campus. The specific sports, that's going to be the next phase. We're going to be looking at partnering with community facilities, not any building projects in mind at this time, but that's going to add a new dimension for students, for all students, and help some of our local high school athletes that want to continue their sport where they don't have to go away and they can stay local and continue their sport. So real excited about that as well. And we've been adding some programs. I did also want to let listeners know that it's not too late to take classes, even though our classes started already and we're well into the fall semester. But we do have a number of 8-week classes that you can start on a rolling basis. And one of the nice things about those is that they're completely online, and there's no textbook cost because all the resources, what we call open educational resources, free online resources. So that makes a big difference as well in keeping things affordable.
A lot of fun things happening, a lot of exciting things happening as always at the NICC Calmer campus. I'll let you give one final invitation for folks to come to Fall Fest tonight.
Come on out. I'm looking forward to seeing you, and we'll have a lot of fun and games. It'll be great.
Appreciate the time, Dr. Reidel, and best of luck for another great academic year here at NICC, and let's have fun tonight at Fall Fest.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Herbert Reidel is the president of Northeast Iowa Community College. Fall Fest coming up tonight on the Calmer campus from 5 until 8. Fun weekend coming up this weekend. It's Hesper-Mabel Steam Engine Days for 2023. And joining us is Carl Westby from the Mabel Lions. And the fun all starts tonight, Carl. Four fun-filled days of entertainment. Let's just run down the day-by-day entertainment beginning tonight at 6 o'clock. That's when the fun all begins.
It sure is. It starts off with a parade of tractors from Hesper-Mabel, and of course K Viking's going to be there with their great giveaway right on Main Street. So then there's be a band kicking off at the American Legion Hall with the Lockharts. So there'll be plenty to do that night.
And then the fun continues on Friday. All sorts of things starting on Friday, really in the afternoon, right?
Yeah, so this is kind of a rare for us. We actually have a home football game against Houston Hurricanes, so that's pretty nice. We usually don't get that lucky, unfortunately. So, and then following the football game, Corey Farley, everybody is aware of him in the area. He will start playing at the Mabel Beer Garden at 8:30. The gates open up at 6:30. And there's also a band at the American Legion, Buck Hollow. So a little bit of different music for whatever you like. And then there'll also be some pony rides going on too.
And that starts at 3 o'clock on the Steam Engine Ground. Of course, Saturday and Sunday, 2 big days of entertainment. You'll have stuff going on from 9 a.m. until 12:30 on Sunday morning. Obviously some highlights, but really something for everyone, it looks like.
Yeah, so obviously there's going to be food vendors Friday night on the Steam Engine grounds, and then also throughout the weekend on Saturday and Sunday. The big ones to think about are, helping out the church stands. You'll have the Hesper church stand serving breakfast every morning, and then you'll have the Mabel First Lutheran serving lunch and supper both days until they run out. And then you'll also have the Legion Auxiliary serving lunch there on Main Street inside the Legion Hall, both days. So there'll be plenty of options for food, that's for sure.
So, and more sporting events, craft and quilt displays, and of course the big parade on Saturday. Run down some of the highlighted events coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, so Saturday we'll start off with the big parade again on Saturday, and the weather looks perfect for it. And then following the parade, we have Molly B and the Squeeze Box Band playing on Saturday afternoon, and that's at the Mabel Lions beer tent. And if you weren't there last year, there's we had the tent on by Main Street there for years, and we poured a whole new concrete inside where the stage area is, and we added on to the building. And this year we added on a bunch of gravel, and we're putting up another tent for overflow of people, and we should be able to house a lot of people. And then obviously there's going to be bands at the Legion Friday night with Buck Hollow, and Saturday they'll have Flashback and Toe Tappers from 2 to 6 on Sunday. And then, like I said, we got Molly B, and then following that we have the Rhino Band out of Minneapolis, and then Palomino Band 2 to 6 on Sunday. So there's no shortage of music throughout the weekend. It's almost like a little music fest going on there. And you'll have the Tri-State Tractor Pull going Saturday night, and the Antique Pull on Sunday. There's going to be new this year. They built 2 brand new volleyball courts. So if anybody still wants to get a team in there, they sure can. They got brand new sand for you to dig your feet into. And then obviously the craft show is on the steam engine grounds, and the quilt show is up at the community center. And there's going to be no shortage of drinks either down there at the beer garden. They got a Bloody Mary bar every day, and they got the carbless drinks and seltzers, full bar, and Coors and Busch products, apple pie shots. And then far as kids go, there's plenty to do for the kids too. You got the Blue Chew Train and the pedal pole, balloons by Kevin, bounce houses. There's bingo at the historic barn. They got the coin find, mutton busting on Sunday, and face painting. You got the railroad show in J. Gumdahl's building, and there's pretty much something for everything and everybody.
And of course, you wrap up everything on Sunday. Another parade on Sunday, more music, more games, more kids' activities. Again, if you're bored this weekend in Hesper and Mabel, it's your own darn fault.
Yep. And there's plenty of raffle tickets too being sold. You got the Booster Club, they're having their big one for Friday night. Them proceeds are going to help put all new sand, that good red sand there on the ball field. And they're giving away a 1969 Alice Chalmers 220 diesel tractor. They got a quilt raffle, a bunch of cash raffles, and we can't forget about all the stuff that's just going on the grounds, period, with all the steam engines and gas engines, and the rock crushing and log sawing. And I mean, it just goes on and on with the amount of stuff, and blacksmith and plowing, and there's a little bit of everything. And it's only $5, huh?
You can't have more entertainment for a more affordable price than that. Anything we're missing, Carl? Anything else you want to pass on? As long as you got the forum this morning. Yeah,
the only thing that it's $5 for the whole weekend to see everything, except for the tractor pull. That's an additional $15 on Saturday night, and obviously they got a full bar up there too with beer and food, and everywhere you go, there's going to be entertainment and food and drinks.
All right, Carl, I'll let you give one final invitation for folks to head on up to Hesper and Mabel for Steam Engine Days this weekend.
If you don't come, it's your own fault.
Well,
there's a lot to do, and a lot of entertainment, a lot of music, a lot of good food, and you get to help out a lot of local organizations that rely on this day to raise money for themselves.
All right, Carl, we appreciate you taking the time to tell us about Hesper-Mabel Steam Engine Days. Looks like it's going to be a beautiful weekend. Everyone will have a lot of fun and a great small town festival. That's what living in our neck of the woods is all about. Have fun this weekend and best of luck with everything going on.
Thank you, and we always appreciate your guys' support.
Carl Westby from the Mabel Lions, Hesper-Mabel Steam Engine Days starting tonight. Having a chat this morning with the city manager of Waukon, Mr. Gary Boden. City council met Tuesday night this week, with Monday being Labor Day. And one of the topics of discussion, Gary, was capital projects and how they relate to the budget. Obviously, there's always projects to do from a city perspective, but where that money comes from and how much money to allocate to those projects is always a topic of discussion. How did those talks go Monday night or Tuesday night?
Well, we did a couple of things. I mean, we had to make some adjustments on a project that has become very difficult for us, to say the least. The First Avenue, First Street Northwest storm sewer project. But that being said, we have budgeted and have planned over really the years for these kinds of things, and have built in contingencies in case problems occur. What we talked about on Tuesday night as far as the capital improvement budgeting is where we are at right now and where we expect to be both in the end of fiscal 24 and the beginning of fiscal 25, which is July 1st of next year. We have money, but as had been described even a year earlier, we are not going to have any more money for capital development unless we develop another revenue source. We have bonded $2.5 million at one point to do streets. We refinanced some debt and added to that debt to likewise do, among other things, streets. We also did a remodel of the police station. And we've used tax increment financing to do one block of reconstruction, but most specifically, we've used TIF to build the Platson subdivision, which is very close to completion.
And part of this discussion is related to perhaps the local option sales tax. I know that current tax expires in the near future for the city of Waukon. There was some discussion at the state legislature of what cities and local municipalities could do with that money. And if the legislature went in a certain direction, there would be no reason to extend it, at least locally. Where is that discussion at? Is the city of Waukon needing to pass another measure to keep that revenue stream going?
Well, we have a referendum that will take place at the beginning of March next year to recertify it. The LOST actually expires on December 31st of 2024. So we are going to have this referendum to get us set up for the future. And it's not just Waukon. We in Alameda County, I think there's 3 other cities that have LOST that's scheduled to be recertified at the same time. So the election in March will see voters in most all of our cities going to determine whether they keep the 1 cent sales tax, which is what it is. And there really isn't any strings attached to that except for what the voters determine is appropriate. In other words, in our case, we have money that is collected from LOST can only be used for streets, water, sewer type projects. There is significant discussion which will culminate in a direction from the council in October. There's significant discussion about expanding the utilization of LOST to include public safety vehicles and equipment, police cars, fire trucks, ambulances. We might talk about it in the context of municipal facilities, but the fact of the matter is that there's only so much money. we are probably spending on average $150,000 a year for the public safety equipment vehicles. And we do not have any specific identified revenue source for that. We have borrowed some money from LOST in anticipation of, if this referendum passes, then we will effectively eliminate that borrowing. But if we don't, the general fund has to come up with its money. And to be honest with you, that's a significant burden. We don't have a whole lot of leverage, if you will, in our general fund. And there's a lot of discussion about expanding certain types of services, particularly as it relates to property maintenance and the idea of doing a higher degree of inspection programming, which will be a subject of a special meeting next Monday night. So we have to be cognizant of where the sources and uses of funds are that we have that can be targeted toward certain types of municipal service expenditures.
And related to this upcoming referendum in March of next year, you mentioned it will be a county-wide election itself, but does the city need to make a statement to clarify what those funds would go towards? Is that the way it works?
Exactly. And in fact, that is what will be decided by the council next month.
Okay.
There's some very exacting laws as to how this ordinance, or I should say resolution to put the item on the ballot has to be done. The first thing is that on September 18th, the council have to give formal direction via resolution just to say that we want to recertify. And then from that, there will be discussion in October establishing another resolution as to what exactly will be on the ballot. And it's not countywide, it's all the cities in the county that are being called upon to do this. There is a countywide LOST too. I believe they have to recertify too, but these things are very defined as far as what you're voting on and in what jurisdiction you're voting on it with.
And will this require a simple majority to pass?
Yes.
Moving on to another topic, I know a presentation was made last night regarding Iowa's Living Roadways Community Visioning Program and how the city of Waukon could be a part of that. Where'd that discussion go?
Well, I think the council's intent was just to receive the information and make a determination as to whether they want to proceed with this or not. No decision was made last night. The question from my perspective is just how high a priority this is versus other things that the council is considering. Realize too that we have an election coming up and that there might be even more input from perhaps newer elected officials. I don't know. I mean, it's just a statement of fact. But the council doesn't necessarily have to make this decision right away. The deadline for doing this will be next year. So it's just putting an idea out there for the council to consider as far as a process to determine what kinds of transportation improvements. And it was emphasized, this transportation improvement business is looking at multimodal types of opportunities, walking, biking, that kind of thing. It isn't just about streets and highways.
And related to that, what would be the positives of joining a program like this, and what would be the potential cost to the city of joining a program like this?
Well, first of all, the idea would be is that you would incorporate some community group that would actually be part of the steering committee, if you will, of this to make proposals. There might be opportunities in that realm to get grant money to help fund particular projects. Obviously, there would have to be match funding for that. But I mean, the point here is that it might very well be a funding opportunity for our consideration. Going back to where we were before, local option sales tax could actually be used as a part of the match funding. But I think the real issue here is that we have a lot of pulls and tugs on improving our infrastructure. And in Waukon, it's an infrastructure that we're kind of behind the curve on getting fixed. And we've made some dramatic improvements over the last few years, but we got a lot more to go.
You touched on the elections. Obviously, we've turned the calendar to September. That means November is coming quicker than probably most of us think, even though we had 100-degree temperatures earlier this week.
Yeah, really.
What are some of the deadlines people need to keep in mind if they're interested in serving in elected positions?
Well, coming up is a filing deadline. To be honest with you, I don't know the specific date, but it's toward the end of this month. And that from there, I know that right now you can get petitions to be filled out, to be submitted for consideration from the county auditor. And I think there's just a week or two left, maybe 3 left to get your name on the ballot. Other than that, the election's the first Tuesday of November, and the people who get elected at that time would take their positions on the city council or mayor, because the mayor's slot is up also on January 1st.
And there has been some shuffling among the elected positions. I know the mayor was appointed earlier this year. A new Ward 3 representative was appointed earlier this year. What spots are actually up for election in November?
Well, the Ward 3 slot is open because there was an appointment, so that would be a 2-year term. Also, the second district where John Leyden is the incumbent, I assume that John's running, but I don't know. As well as the mayor slot, as well as the one at-large slot that right now is held by Andy Sayers.
And those are the spots that are open this week. Another issue you touched on a few moments ago, but I know this is going to be a meeting coming up next Monday night, is regarding the overall nuisance ordinances in the city. I know this was discussed at a previous council meeting regarding lawns primarily, but council members and the mayor decided that you should look at all of the nuisances and what they say and what the council is trying to accomplish with them next Monday night. What will the meeting next Monday night all entail?
I think if anything else, is an opportunity for citizens to bring input into what they think is appropriate, or for that matter, what they think is a problem. When we talk about property maintenance, we're talking about junk in the yards. We're talking about a variety of issues that, if quote unquote cleaned up, would certainly achieve a higher degree of aesthetic and assumedly perhaps an improvement in property values, although that's very hard to quantify. I think there's a lot of people that are somewhat dissatisfied with what's going on in Waukon as far as the condition of properties that other people find not offensive, but and I think that that's probably the reason why we want to have this, is, if anything else, to get people from both perspectives to make comment about the idea of enacting and implementing laws or ordinances, I should say, that would achieve, assumedly, a goal of improved community betterment, I guess is the better thing to say. The only thing I could say about it. It is a subject matter that does have controversy to it. Other communities have far more stringent ordinances or, for that matter, enforcement procedures than we do. And I think that's going to be as much of an issue as anything, is what kind of things do we want to target, and what kind of things does the city actually think needs to be done from the standpoint of improving neighborhoods.
What is, in the current city ordinance, city laws, what is defined as a nuisance?
Well, it's kind of nebulous, to be honest with you. Our laws are not very strongly structured. And I think one of the things that you'll get out of this is a determination of, as to whether you want to really focus on those things and actually make those items of concern more specifically defined. It seems, I don't know, I mean, I've been here almost 4 years now. There seems to be kind of a laissez-faire about this, attitude about this, but I don't know. I think there's other people out there that likewise think that we need to clean things up.
That's what I've got in my notebook. Gary, anything else we're missing? Anything else you want to pass on from the city's perspective?
No, to be honest with you, we would like to get some construction projects done. The two big projects that we got going on right now have hit delays, and it's not that it's anybody's fault. When we opened up the street at First and First to do the storm sewer, we found out that the sanitary sewer had a belly in it. The water main was all over the place. I mean, we're talking about dealing with infrastructure that's more than 100 years old, and this is a problem that we have in Waukon, generally speaking, because we do not have good records as to where this infrastructure is. And as a result, we open up the street and then we find out what we got. And sometimes it's not a good circumstance, particularly as it relates to this First and First storm sewer installation. But we will fix it. We will chart where all this infrastructure is now. I mean, as we've done all of the projects in recent times, we've been a lot more vigilant in putting down where all this stuff is. It's digitized, but it will take some time for us to again catch up, because it's been a long time since we've done some of these improvements. And while we've done a lot of work on, for instance, the sanitary sewers treatment system with that new plant that's now a little over 2 years old, we probably are going to see a lot more work in the upcoming years related to water transmission.
All right. We appreciate you taking the time to tell us everything going on in the city of Waukon. Gary, thanks for the time as always. Look forward to talking to you again next month, and go Cubs.
Yeah, really. Well, thank you very much.
Gary Boden, city manager of Waukon. Having our monthly conversation with the city manager of Decorah, Mr. Travis Goedken. Council meeting earlier this week, and it was a 20-minute meeting. Again, Travis, as a media guy that sits through a lot of meetings, I endorse. I second that motion, shall we say. But you got the job done in a short amount of time.
Yep, we try and be as efficient as possible here.
Couple of things you mentioned in your report at the meeting the other night. An update regarding the 2019 floodplain maps. Where's that situation at?
Yes. So, Darren, the city received notice last week from FEMA that the 2019 preliminary floodplain maps are now ready to be adopted. And so the city received notice that for us to continue to participate in the National Flood Insurance Program, we need to have those maps approved by ordinance prior to February 22nd of next year. So we'll see further action from the council on that.
And when will that action take place?
We're not going to wait too long, but I would say within the next month or two, we'll see that started.
Another thing the council dealt with last night, a generator for the Emergency Operations Center, the 911 Dispatch Center. That's going to be purchased. Where did the push for this to happen? Where's the money coming from for it, and why did the city need it?
Mm-hmm. So the great thing, let's start with where the money is coming from, because that's the best part of this, that the city received a grant from FEMA to cover the full cost of this project, actually. And so majority of that's funded with federal dollars. There is a state kick in as well from the Department of Homeland Security. So this project of $92,000 is going to, $90,000 is going to be covered in entirety by federal and state funds. And it's going to go on the library, serve a couple of features for us. One, in the event of loss of power, it can serve as emergency operations center, a backup 911 dispatch center, as well as an emergency shelter in the event that we lose power for an extended period of time. So going on in the library, and that should be done here hopefully before winter falls.
Definitely a good thing on that end of things. Council did also pass the third reading and the final consideration of the ordinance regarding mayoral and council pay. Council members basically going to get paid for the work sessions they attend, and the mayor getting a slight bump in the mayor's salary for those work sessions that attend. But I think it's important to figure out this doesn't go into effect right away. It goes into effect here in a few months, correct?
Exactly, Darren. That's one of the reasons that this was brought back in front of council. Again, this does not go into effect until after this election and those new or returning council members take office in January 1. So that is a state law that mayor council compensation can't be considered between the election and up to the 1st, and can only go into effect after January 1st.
And I know the street committee met prior to the council meeting, starting some discussion on the 2025 street improvements, looking into the future and the planning discussions right now. What are some of the projects that are going to be looked at in that fiscal year?
Mm-hmm. So we're still really early in these conversations of what fiscal 25 street plan looks like. Because fiscal 25 plan is more calendar year build out of 24 primarily, but Hively Street, West Hively, we'll talk about. So the area west of City Hall, that would be the largest area discussed last night. Not saying that's going to be the project considered, but as brought up, that would take redoing that section of Hively up to College Drive, as well as some of the underground work, would take more than a year's worth of revenue from local option sales tax. So I point that out because it's a great way to show that the dollar doesn't go as far as one might think when it comes to street projects. And that, would that be a 3-block stretch, 4-block stretch, is again more than a year's worth. That's about $2 million project. And once you include the underground utilities, you're at about 2.5. So that was discussed, but as Decorah has been doing the last couple of years, spreading out the dollars throughout the community to improve rideability, do mill and overlay projects. We talked about the PCI for Decorah and the different areas that could be addressed. And really, we haven't hammered down which path we're going to go. One large project with our funding, or several smaller and spread around. So that's where we're at in those discussions.
And when it comes to discussing and looking at projects for the short term or in the long term in general, how long of a process is it to decide this street is going to get worked on and the work being completed on that street? How much time, thought, study goes into making these decisions?
So the majority of that's done at the staff level there, and there's a lot of that happens under the radar from the public. So whether it's Jeremy Brill, our city engineer, and the street department verifying, because the PCI, the pavement condition index that we get from the DOT, that's just one of many tools that we use to evaluate which projects should move forward. But it's a great starting point. But again, some of that data is a little flawed, little skewed. For example, Court Street. Court Street shows up as a PCI of less than 20, if I remember the number value, which is poor. You're like, well, wait a minute, we just redid Court Street. Well, it's all brick. So that's part of their consideration, and it shows up as a low PCI. But anyway, there's several months of planning that go into where these dollars are going to go. And of course, we got to take into consideration how many dollars we're going to have. And on top of that, like Locust Road, if we're going to do that large of a project, what is our bonding capacity? What's the interest in bonding to achieve that type of project? And we've got probably 2-3 months of staff research, identifying different areas. And I'd say another 2 months of council's discussion, thoughts on it. And then we get into budgeting, and that's another month or two. Overall, total about 6 months.
So a lot of time and study goes into these decisions before they come to fruition. Speaking of street projects right now, the road diet started last week on College Drive. I know on this program last week, we talked to Jeremy Brill about that. Any initial feedback the city is receiving about the new setup in that stretch between the College Drive Bridge and Locust Road?
Mm-hmm. Yep. You know, with any change, of course, you're going to have mixed responses and feedback to that. I will say majority would be positive. You know, the change from 4 to 3 lane, it does make anybody trying to make a left turn across traffic that much easier. Now you're only crossing 2 lanes of traffic as opposed to 1. Same with turning left onto traffic, onto College Drive. Again, now you're only crossing 1 lane of traffic, not 2, as well as pedestrian bicycle crossings. We've now shortened that width that traffic's actually in. But of course, again, on the negative side, we get comments that it does take a little bit longer to get through during the peak travel times. Do get some negative comments about, actually, we've had some just say that they don't like change. You know, that's going to take getting used to. The good news is this is not the first time that this community has traveled on a 3-lane street, Montgomery Street, Short Street, all similar 3-lane setups. So a little bit of time it'll take for adjusting. And that's why we hoped the contractor would have done this a few months ago during summer before school starts. But here we are. Learning curve starts during the school year.
We've turned the calendar to September. That means November is getting closer, and that means city elections are getting closer. What are some of the dates that people need to keep in mind if they're interested in running for city council positions or a park and rec board?
Yes. So if you are interested in seeking an elected position here in Decorah, September 21st is going to be that key deadline for you. You need to have your paperwork turned in to the county. We don't accept those here at City Hall. They need to be taken to the courthouse. And again, September 21st. If you are seeking a ward position here in Decorah, just grab my notes here. A ward position needs 14 signatures. A at-large position needs 49 signatures. And Park and Rec needs 44 signatures. Now, again, I do want to point out, I would not recommend going out and getting just 14 or just 49, because there is a chance that some of those signatures might not be considered, whether they're not registered to vote here in Decorah, whatever might disqualify them. So don't say, well, Travis told me I needed 49 or I needed 14. The more you have, the better. I do want to point out, Darren, that anybody that has any questions about what it's like to serve on council or the mayor, or excuse me, if you have questions, what an elected position might be, whether it's council or park board, what those roles, responsibilities are, more than happy to talk with anyone that has questions.
And because of the redistricting after the census, there is a few changes in the shuffling of the council itself. Probably a good time to remind people what spots are actually open this year as well.
Correct. So with the redistricting, it did do a little bit of shuffling. And so the wards up are going to be Ward 2, which used to be represented by Emily Neal. And so Ward 2 is going to be open. Let's see, let me grab my notes here. So with this shuffling,
We don't want to leave anybody in the dark either.
All right, motion sensing light switches here in Decorah. So let me grab my notes here. All right.
If I only had the Jeopardy theme music to go through this as you try to get that accurate information for our listening audience.
Right. And you'd think as many times as I've discussed this, that I would have this at just embedded in my brain. But there's
you got a lot of things going on. So
yeah, that there is.
I'll grade you a little bit on a curve that way.
Okay. So the big thing, the one that I know for sure is we do have one at-large position.
Okay.
Kirk Johnson's seat on the ballot. Council members Steve Zittergruen and Steve Luce during redistricting were both drawn into the same district. And so they will both have to seek election, as well as, let's see, so those two individuals, Kirk Johnson's position and Emily Neal's position, will be on the ballot, which equates to
4 spots.
Right?
Yeah. That's what my Norwegian.
Yeah, that's 4 spots. Yep.
All right. That's what I've got in my notebook. Anything else left in your Microsoft Word document?
Nope, that should be it.
Appreciate the time as always, Travis. Look forward to talking to you again here in the month of October.
Looking forward to it.
Travis Goedken, Decorah City Manager, joining us. A thank you to our guest on the program this morning, Dr. Herb Reidel. He is the president of Northeast Iowa Community College. And Dr. Herb invites you to Fall Fest tonight on the Kilmer campus from 5 until 8 p.m. Hesper-Mabel Steam Engine Days, always a fun time. We thank Carl Westby from the Mabel Lions for joining us. Gary Boden, city manager of Waukon, and Travis Goedken, the city manager of Decorah. A reminder, we put these shows on YouTube each and every week. We realize you're busy. Can't always be near a radio or a streaming device at 9 o'clock on a Thursday morning, but we get to talk to interesting people. We got to talk to 4 interesting people this morning, and we want to bring these conversations to you on your schedule. Just head to YouTube 9/7 Our Town program, a great way to connect to the program. Also, you can get it through the links we put up on all of our LA Communications Facebook pages. So, another way we keep in touch with the community here at LA Communications. Again, thank you to our guests. Thank you to our sponsor, Decorah Bank and Trust. And most importantly, we thank you, that's right, you, for tuning in, for logging on, or for watching Our Town on 94.9 and 99.1 The River.